possibly everything I need to do to make the sound work. Let's see if that's everything. Bam, bam. Does it work now? I hope. It's always something with these robots, you know? It's always something. If only I had a producer. Oh, sigh. Maybe someday. Yay! Okay, cool. Awesome. See, this is what these few minutes in the beginning are for. It's literally for this. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, welcome in. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the class. If this is your first time here, welcome and thank you for joining us for this class. I encourage you to light a candle, maybe light some incense. You might grab something to drink and maybe a snack. We're going to pretty much go at this hard and heavy for the next 2 hours. You might also grab some magical tools, like a tarot deck or another oracle that you like to work with. You might grab your natal chart if you work with your astrology. And if you're, I think this is really fun to watch with like a bestie or with your partner or with your sister or your brother or what have you. I think it's really fun to watch that way. But also feel free to like put this on in the background while you get some chores done or make dinner or fold the laundry or something like that. Like, you know how best you learn and absorb information. So make things good for yourself. Yeah. Make it good. Make it good and good. It's 7:06. Time to begin. Time to start the starting. This is still the preamble, but we're starting to start. So welcome. Again. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us here in the Litha 2021. What year? See, time doesn't make any sense. Time doesn't matter anymore. Time is like a complete farce. My name is Megan Angus. I'm pretty sure I am a self-taught eclectic pagan. I am currently offering this work from unceded ancestral Duwamish territory, and that is also known as Seattle. I've been studying paganism and witchcraft studies, practices, and histories for about 37 years. Self-report there. I'm old. Well, I'm well seasoned. I think it's nice that I tell you how old I am. It's like a warning, honestly. But these classes were born out of a couple of different things. One, working with folks in community who were, recovering Christians, or who were previously atheist or previously agnostic, but that path work had gotten them only so far and they wanted to go further. And so these classes started as parties that I would throw in my house that were intended to be a safe space for people to come and ask questions and not be mocked. It was okay if somebody put a beer on the altar. We were going to be, okay with that. A very casual environment where people could experiment with and play with concepts that are not treated very casually in most circumstances. But these classes were also born out of what I see as a profound disconnect between magic and science, or religion and science. To me, the further back we go, the more we're talking about the same stuff. And a real big disconnect between pagans and their historical ancestry. And that ancestry might be genetic ancestry. It might be the ancestry of the place where you live currently. It might be the ancestry and the history of the spiritual practice that you participate in. But I've found, a lot of pagans they don't know where their beliefs come from, or they don't know how many other things are connected to the practice that they're engaging in. And so, and also I see this as a big disconnect between modern pagans and other spiritual groups, and vice versa, other spiritual groups understanding where modern pagans are coming from. So as we go through this class, a note on magical paradigms. All magical paradigms are valid. Let's just start with that. I've been seeing a lot of discussion, especially in Hermetic circles, Thelemic, Kabbalistic circles online, where people are really bent out of shape about the binary paradigm and insisting that this is something that is necessary for magic, and it's, the thing out of which all the other paradigms are born, all that stuff. All paradigms are valid. That's what makes them potent. In discussing paganism and hermetically influenced practices, we will often see binary representation. God, goddess, sun, moon, black, white, yes, no, good, evil, quote unquote. But the binary is just one of an infinite number of ways to interpret reality and the universe. As I learned from the great saint, Robert Anton Wilson, choose your reality tunnel. Just remember, it's a choice. No reality tunnel is more truthier than any other reality tunnel. So, and before we get into the class proper, let me blast you with the shill. I do this work also as a means of supporting myself. If you would like to work along with me and us over the next 6 to 7 weeks, join my Patreon. I put out a weekly podcast detailing our journey through each season with a heavy emphasis on lunar cycles. And what am I saying? There's a heavy emphasis on everything, like it's a lot. We cover the pagan and the global holidays of the week. We talk about the astrology, the astronomy, the lunar phases, all of it. We talk about all of it in those podcasts. And folks that are subbed at the Venus level, which is $9 and higher, have access to a handcrafted 20-page PDF of the workbook and the 6 to 8 week calendar that comes along with this and every season, with over, I don't know, I think Litha season this year has over 250 holidays listed in the calendar, so there's a lot in there. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you want to know when this next class is happening. You can also join my newsletter to get even more information about this series and all of that good stuff. All right, that's it. Let's get into it. We are going to start tonight with a little bit of science. Let's have some science. Let's have some science. I'm going to have a sip of my beverage, and then we're going to have some science. And I'm going to do my damnedest to stick to a schedule. So either that's not going to work or it's going to work. So we'll find out. Where are we at? 12 minutes in? We're fine. I'm ahead of schedule at this point. Okay. All right. So let us start with a little bit of science. This, my friends, is a very simple drawing from the Encyclopedia Britannica. I'm borrowing this for educational purposes. Please don't sue me. This is a diagram of the seasonal configuration of the Earth and the Sun. And what you're seeing here is the Earth in its orbit going around the Sun and showing where the light falls on our globe. This is the basis of our seasons. This is how we have seasons. And And so you can see at the vernal equinox and at the autumnal equinox, there's equal night and equal day and lots of sunlight reaching from pole to pole. But at the summer solstice, you can see that there's a pretty significant tilt. The south pole is not getting a whole lot of light. And then the winter solstice, there's also, again, this significant tilt. That's the tilt of our planet. And the north pole is not getting too much light. Here is another depiction of this. And so what we see in the sky from here on Earth is this arc that the sun moves across. And at the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox, we have this equal night, equal day situation. But at summer solstice and at winter solstice, we have the longest days and longest nights, and the shortest days and the shortest nights. And the phenomenon of that is the solstice. What that word means is sun stand still. Why that? Because as the sun rises on the eastern horizon every day, as we get closer and closer to the summer solstice, those of us who are here in the Northern Hemisphere, the sun moves further and further south on the eastern horizon and rises higher and higher in the sky every day. At the summer solstice, it appears to rise in the same place on the horizon 3 days in a row. Same thing at the winter solstice. And if you're not familiar, that whole 3-day thing is kind of a big deal in some religions. Just, you might jot it down. Here is another way of depicting this whole tilt thing that the planet does. At the top, we have, for the Northern Hemisphere, what summer solstice looks like. In the bottom right-hand corner, that's what winter solstice looks like. And in the bottom left-hand corner, this is what the planet is doing. This is what the sunlight looks like at the spring equinox and the fall equinox. I found this. Oh, yeah. Let me say this first. Okay. So, even with my notes, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. So in this picture, and in this picture, we see Earth in what is depicted as more or less a perfect circle around the sun. But that is not true, my friends. Nor is the sun at the very center of our orbit. Our orbit is actually kind of egg-shaped. It's kind of oblong. And our sun is a little bit closer to one end than it is the other. This is a drawing depicting that and how that shape actually changes over the millennia. Now, that piece of the conversation is a little bit bigger and a little bit further out than what we are going to have scope to talk about in this individual class. But the diagram up at the right is what our orbit, the diagram up at the left is what our orbit looks like right now. You can see the long end is way out on the left, and that's June 21st. And so what we would think of as the long half of the year runs from fall equinox through summer solstice into spring, or we could say the short half of the year is from fall to, I don't know why I said it that way. That was really goofy. We could say that the long half of the year runs from spring equinox through summer solstice into fall equinox, and the short half of the year is from fall equinox to spring equinox. If we count out the days, the literal days between fall equinox and spring equinox versus the days between spring equinox and fall equinox, there's actually a whole week difference from one half of the year to the other. So it really is the longer half. What's interesting is, as we look through those two other oval shapes, we go back 5,000 years and then we go back 11,000 years. Now, at the 11,000 year mark, we have winter solstice at the heart of the long half of the year, meaning the cold half of the year is significantly longer than, or, to some extent, right, than the short half of the year. This was also potentially when we had our last little ice age, right? So maybe there's something to that cyclical pattern. I don't know. And again, the rest of that conversation is kind of outside of the scope of what we can talk about. But I just wanted to include that because if you've been with me on a few of these classes, you've seen this shape, and we're going to see this shape again. But you've seen this shape in megaliths. You've seen how many megaliths are not actually a perfect circle, but they have more of an oval shape, or there may even be a secondary oval shape to it somewhere else. So this picture I frickin' love. This is a photograph of the sun moving across the sky every single day from winter solstice through summer solstice. So those very lowest sun paths at the very bottom of the picture, that's all winter solstice. And the closer we get to summer solstice, the higher and higher and higher it goes up in the sky. Mark that shape, because we're going to see this shape again too. And this is where I end up looking like Charlie from It's Always Sunny, right? With the board with all the strings and the right. Okay, you guys, I'm telling you. But it's this kind of stuff where I'm like, religion and science is the same freaking thing. They were showing us with their spiritual symbolism and their magical symbolism, the science of, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So there, I thought that would be really cool to look at. And also this. This is called, I always forget the name of this. This is called see, I took notes and I didn't even take my notes. I didn't do a good job at it. It starts with an A. You'll just trust me, it starts with an A. And what this shape is a photograph of the sun at the same time every day. I think there's only 52 pictures, so it's probably once a week, or 52 dots in that, so it's probably once a week. But the point being is that every single day, this picture was taken at the same time. Now, what we're seeing here is, well, the infinity symbol, so that's pretty cool. And we are going to see this shape over and over again as well in this class and in others. Now, what's interesting about this is the reason why it is not a perfect circle, but instead is an oblong stretched out shape, is because, again, the sun is not perfectly in the center of our orbit. It's offset a little bit. And the reason for the twist in the shape, giving us two circle type shapes that are oblongs instead of one, is because of the tilt of the planet. If we only had the tilt, this would be a teardrop shape. If we only had the sun offset, this would be an oblong, but there'd be no twist in it. So, it's that thing that we do here on Earth, right time, right place, right? All that cool stuff. So just remember that we've looked at this shape. I think that this is something that ancient people may have known, that they may have realized. And the tilt of this shape, see how it's tilted off sort of to the northeast or to the upper right-hand corner? That is marked by the time of day that the photographs were taken. If the photographer had taken these pictures at noon, this would be directly up and down, which I think is also pretty cool. If it was taken really close to sunrise or sunset, it would be basically horizontal, it would be basically straight across. Okay, so there is a little bit of science to get us caught up on what the heck we're talking about here when it comes to the solstice and the... Wait! Don't look at that. We're not ready for that yet. So there's a little bit of our science, right? Just pure, plain old, straight shot of science. All right. So now what I want to look at is a brief overview of megaliths that mark the summer solstice. We talked about megaliths in the Ostara class that mark the spring equinox, and there are quite a few of them. So some of these sites will probably be familiar to you if you were in that class. So let's start off with Nabta Playa in southern Egypt in Africa, one of the oldest megalithic sites known on the planet. This site marks everything. It marks everything. It marks the solstices, the equinoxes, the heliacal risings of several fixed stars, in particular fixed stars leading up to the summer solstice. And in what I think is really, really cool is during one of the more recent digs, a cow-headed statue was found, and more folks are starting to think that this is either Hathor or a precursor goddess to Hathor. And we certainly see a lot of Taurus energy running through because at one point, because of the precession of the equinoxes, Taurus would have been in alignment with summer solstice. But also Taurus just kind of, the bull and cow imagery just kind of like runs the show at this time of year. Oh my God, I'm not sticking to my notes. Okay. I gotta hurry up. We got stuff to talk about. All right. So this is Naphtali. Moving on to, this is, where did I send us to? Oh, yes, this is the Ring of Brodgar in Scotland. This is built approximately 2500 BCE. This is a site that marks the summer solstice. This is summer solstice over Stonehenge. Hope to see it with my own eyes someday. I think that'd be pretty dope. But yeah, big surprise. Stonehenge marks the summer solstice. Who didn't see that coming? This is Chichen Itza. We talked about this site as well at spring equinox, because at the equinox, a serpent of light runs up and down the stairs. And here at summer solstice, the optical miracle that occurs is because of the placement of this pyramid or this temple, it aligns perfectly with the directions, and at the summer solstice, it completely illuminates one side of the pyramid, or excuse me, two sides of the pyramid, and it casts into shadow the other two sides. So it divides the pyramid into half, and it turns it black and white. Pretty cool. Frickin' Mayans. Math! These guys were smart, man. They knew what was up. This is from Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. This is a site that was built around 850 current era. And there is a bunch of cool stuff that happens at Chaco Canyon. We've talked about this site a few times. But one of the dope things is there is a spiral carved into a wall, and on the summer solstice, there is a dagger or a spear of light that runs across the spiral. And it isn't just old cultures that have been obsessed with the solstices. This is an art project in Utah called the Sun Tunnels. This was established or installed is what I'm trying to say, in 1976, and the all of these tunnels align with the winter and summer solstice and the vernal and autumnal equinox. So there is a little bit of megalith stuff for you of different sites that mark the solstice, but I think the sites that I really want to talk about, that I'm very excited about, are medicine wheels. That is not, they are not all called medicine wheels by all of the groups that built them, but medicine wheels are megalithic sites that people that are indigenous to Turtle Island or North America have built. And so the first one that I want to show you, and this is where stuff starts to get a little weird and cool. This site is Majorville in Alberta, Canada, and this is an aerial photograph of it. You can see how a lot of the rocks have been scattered, probably on purpose, because, you know, colonizers can't have anything just be nice. This was built originally around 3300 BCE. So yeah, 5,000 frickin' years ago, guys. This marks, like a lot of medicine wheels, everything under the sun, including the moon. If you look very carefully, you will see there are 28 lines radiating out from the center, and this is in accordance with the 28 to 29 days of the lunar cycle. This site also marked the solstices, the equinoxes, fixed star risings, lots of cool stuff. This site, this is Bighorn medicine wheel, in Wyoming. Here is another shot of it from the air. It's a little bit easier to see its shape. This is a site that has been kept a little bit better. And I expected that is, well, who knows why, but all the same. You can see that there's 3 different piles of rocks around the outer ring. Some scientists or some anthropologists believe that those rocks were moved to be able to keep up with the precession of the equinoxes, because Bighorn Medicine Wheel is a site that has had activity for 10,000 years, guys. And that's as far back as it's been traced. It could be longer than that. Other sites in America that mark other medicine wheel type sites, we have Cahokia, Woodhenge in Mississippi, and the Inukshuks of the Inuit and the Arctic people up north. Big surprise, right? That people living near the poles would be really, really excited about these solstices. One of the things that I think is really interesting and amazing about Bighorn Medicine Wheel is this is high up on a mountain and it gets snowed out, so you can't drive to it in the winter. But you can walk to it. And the pathway has been used for so long, 10,000 years, that it's literally dug into the rocks. And it's completely safe and relatively easy to traverse, even in the gnarliest of winter climates. Clearly a site that humans have been working with, using, treasuring, and taking care of for, well, 10,000 years, right? Pretty incredible stuff. All right, so we have had a chance to look at those medicine wheels. Now I want to show you this. This is a depiction of the different types of medicine wheel shapes that we see throughout North America. A lot of these are from the Alberta region in particular, but we absolutely see these shapes all over North America, lots and lots of different medicine wheels. And then you could sort of take the 28 spoke wheel and lay it over the top of all of these. Now, one of the ones that I thought was really interesting was in that top row, second to the left. That looks exactly to me like the Menadra site that we looked at in Malta during spring equinox. I was like, wait a minute, that's literally the same shape as the other temple. And that temple is from like 6,000 years ago in Malta. In Malta. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you might keep these things in your mind as well. They kind of look like suns, don't they? They kind of look like wheels, don't they? They kind of look like crosses, don't they? Huh. Crazy. Okay, so interesting stuff here. Let's just move on directly to the symbols that people have used to represent the wheel in Europe and in South America and, well, all over the planet, Asia, etc., for the last, 5,000 or so years. That's about as far back as I decided to go. We see the solar cross from 3300 BC. We see the solar cross with the crescent moon from Assyria. That is from 2500 BC. We see the Mycenaea Wheel. This is actually the word for wheel from Mycenaean Greece. Gothic word for wheel, or symbol, I guess, for wheel, from 400 CE. The Shimazu clan from Japan, upper right-hand corner. And the solar cross from the Caddo Native American indigenous nation here in America, down in the bottom right-hand corner. Wow, they all look alike, don't they? They're all the same thing. Equal armed crosses in a circle, more or less, or a circle with a dot in the center. The circle with the dot in the center is still used today to represent the sun in astrology. And I love down in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the Unicode. So it's still, even today, this is the symbol for the sun. Everywhere we go, this is it. And what? One of the things that I think is really important here is there is a lot of crossover linguistically and visually with the sun and the concept of the sun and solar entity, and wheel, the concept of a wheel, the idea of a wheel. These symbols can represent the sun, often do. They also can represent the wheel, as in the wheel of the year. You know, that thing that we're doing right now. So these symbols also have something about the passage of time, and the turning of the cosmos, right? Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I don't think so. This is a sundog, and this is a solar phenomenon that occurs when the sun is relatively close to the horizon and there's ice crystals in the atmosphere. One of the super weird things about that is, depending on the chemicals in the atmosphere, the shape of this will change, or you might have multiple sundogs show up around the sun. You might have multiple spots there of light, depending on what kind of chemicals are in the atmosphere. Really trippy stuff, right? But when I saw, I was just like, hello. Okay, so normally we got to have ice crystals, so there's an inference there that generally we're going to be seeing this in the cold half of the year versus the bright half of the year. But also the sun has to be really close to the horizon. So there's also something here connecting the solstices, right? Because if the sun's really low on the horizon doing this kind of a thing and it's cold out, that means it's near winter solstice, the counterpart, if you will, to summer solstice. Just a very interesting shape. I wanted to make sure that I showed that to you guys and that you got a chance to see it. So this is the Trundholm Sun Chariot. This was found in Denmark. It was created during the Nordic Bronze Age, approximately 1700 BC. And this is a depiction of a theme or an idea that we will see over and over and over again at this time and with solar deities throughout time. That the sun is this great thing or being that is drawn in a horse-drawn chariot with wheels, obviously. And so we have here now our tie-in between this wheel symbology and the sun. And if you've been playing along at home, you know that we've been talking about horses quite a bit over the last month because it's been Gemini season. And the Dioscuri, the mortal and sacred twins that are Castor and Pollux, the Gemini twins, are horse riders. And we'll get into more of that in just a little bit. But here now we have in front of us this really incredible connection between the chariot imagery, the wheel, the sun, and horses. Okay, so there's our solar symbols. There's our sundog. I'm going to leave that just for a second. Because I was going to do a big old thing about all of the different solar deities that we might be working with at this time of year. I'm actually going to save that for the Lunisod class because as much as there is a massive emphasis on the sun and solar deities and solar energies because of the change, because it's the summer solstice, longest day of the year, all that good shit, the sun is going to reach its highest point in the sky, there is also a massive emphasis on the ocean and oceanic deities and waterway deities. We've already been talking about that quite a bit over the last month as well, because Gemini also rules sailing and sailors and boats and merchants of the sea and all of that stuff. So we've already been dealing with a lot of that imagery. We're going to be dealing with a lot more of it. We're really going to be getting into the wet part of it now. Finally. But I did want to take a moment and talk about one particular sun deity because as I was doing my research, the symbolism of this deity stood out so strongly to me, and the work that we do with them, or could be doing with them, stood out so strongly to me. So I was like, okay, we got to do something about this. So let me introduce you to, let me make sure that you saw this, okay? Now let me introduce you to Bewe. Bewe is a solar goddess. This is the symbol that represents this goddess. She is a goddess of the sun, and she is worshipped by the Sami people. These are the other ways that you might spell her name. And she rules the sun. She is connected to springtime. She is connected to fertility and sanity. I was floored and then not at all surprised because, of course, we see this time and time again with the ancient peoples and the peoples that have, stayed away from the modern world as much as they can, how much mental health is embedded in the spiritual work that we do, how much mental health is embedded in the folklore, the mythology, the symbolism within the myths. So much of it is about being present with yourself, dealing with your own business, all of that stuff. And so sacrifices are made to this goddess at winter solstice. She plays an incredibly important role because for the Same at summer solstice, the sun does not set. So this is literally, this goddess is up in the sky doing her thing. She cannot be stopped. She's also associated with fertility. I've got that on there. She's also associated with fertility. One of my favorite rituals ritual forms that I found out about her is that during the months, like I said, at winter solstice, a type of sacrifice is made to her and this is normal for a lot of cultures that have heavy duty sun worship. At winter solstice, they're almost like feeding the sun. Like it's the weakest time or the lowest time for the sun. And so a lot of those cultures will try to give something to the sun to help it on its path. And then as the sun is returning through the spring months up toward summer solstice, folks will smear butter on doorways. Folks will make sun rings out of leaves. My guess is it's probably like birch or, who knows? I'm guessing here, but they'll make these sun rings out of leaves, and they'll hang those on their doors, and give up prayers for mental health. Same is, Biwi is the goddess that brings shamans back and forth as well, like shamanic healers and shamanic folk in the Same tradition. Found this also. This is a shamanic drum, and there's her symbol right in the very center of it is that an oval shape? We're looking at an oval shape, right? Okay. Yeah, just checking. I don't know what these symbols are. If I had to guess, this is a type of calendar. This to me looks like markings that somebody would make to remember when we're supposed to plant, when we're supposed to harvest, when we're supposed to call the animals in, when we're supposed to move down to the warmer living places, when are we supposed to like push up, into the mountaintops, all of that good stuff. So I just thought that this was really cool and really, really interesting. Here's our symbol. And, just in case you forgot, it's literally the same. It's the same, right? It's the same. That's not just me, right? That's the same. That's the same. That's the same. Okay. That's the same. Man, I don't care what you say. That is the same. All right. So there is a little bit of science for you. There is a little bit of history for you, and some connections for you, and some all of that good stuff. Let me show you. Oh, wow. Did I screw that up? I may have screwed that up. I may have one slide that I have to go find and dig up for you guys, because I'm not sure what I did with it. Okay, so now we have talked about what people have been doing in the past, like literally for the last 10,000 years. Let's talk about what witches are doing today. Am I even close to my schedule? No, not at all. Okay. So let's talk about how modern pagans, mark this schedule, or mark this calendar point, this moment in the solar path. And when I say modern pagans, I think I'm going to bring it up to like the last 1,000 years or so, as well as literally today. So we have, these are our other names, and I'm using this as a reminder to myself. So summer solstice, obviously, Midsummer is another name for this. Albenhefen is the Druid name for this. Kupolanok, this is from our Slavic friends. Gathering Day is another European and American name for this. And Night of the Chalice. The types of stuff that we see people doing at this time of year. We see stuff like people getting naked and hanging out outside. Cool, right? We're into that. We see things like folks hanging out in the garden with their plants. There are definitely traditions of people having sex or sexual contact or sensual contact near their garden, in their garden, near their plants, even if it's just on the carpet near the house plants, whatever, go for it. This idea, the idea is that there is an exchange between the human world and the plant world of energy. And that our energy is helping feed the plants, and that we're getting something from doing our thing next to the plants, and that all of that good stuff. But this is really like the whole being sky-clad thing is partly because of the weather. It's wonderful in the Northern Hemisphere. It's beautiful nearly wherever you are at summer solstice. But it's also a way of remembering the inherent sacredness of the body with or without sex. Like, regardless of sex, nudity is natural. It's our natural state. It's how we're born. We're not born, thank God, wearing clothes. Pants are jail. We've already talked about this. That pants are leg jail, and I'm not having it. You're a sucker. But we see folks gathering herbs on this day. This is where the name Gathering Day comes from. This is actually an incredibly potent night and series of nights around the summer solstice to gather herbs and gather magical plant parts for work in this season and throughout the rest of the year. Again, the sun is at its highest point in the sky, and there is this idea that, you know, there's all this potency and all this power and everything that's going on. In Latvia, we see the feast of Jarilo and Lara. That's actually throughout the entirety of the Slavic world. This is Cupola night. And these are indicative of a lot of different divine marriages that are happening at this time of year between the goddess and the god, or between a this and a that. And here's where we come into some of that binary paradigm stuff, right? We're talking about two things that are at extreme points from each other coming together to do a thing that's ultimately going to produce a thing. What's really important to remember when we work with that, again, that imagery is really potent. But wherever you are in the world, there is a thing that is a collection of stuff that is not you, right? You are a collection of miscellaneous stuff, and there's a thing across from you that's a collection of miscellaneous stuff that is not, it's all stuff that's not in you. We can think of, you know, when we think of paradigms that have multitudes versus the binary paradigm, this is a way to work with this and that, here and there, these and those, yes, no, black, white kind of stuff. And not to be all that. So Kupolanok is the Slavic name for Jarilo and Lara's marriage. We've talked about both of those deities a lot in the last couple of months because they've been coming up to this very sacred moment in their pathwork. But again, we see divine marriages of a variety of types throughout the world happening at summer solstice. And the types of stuff that happens for Kupolanok is actually pretty cute. There's bonfires. That's a really normal thing. Putting up maypoles or putting up, maypoles. That is something that is also practiced by a lot of pagan groups and folk groups at summer solstice instead of at Beltane. Lots of people will make wreaths of leaves and wildflowers and put candles in them and float them down a river. And there can even be like couple divination stuff that goes along with that practice where, one party will put the wreath in the water and then across the river, there's another group of people that are like, whose wreath do I want? Let me fish this one out and see who it gets me. And one of my favorite one of my favorite elements of this holiday, Kupalanak in particular, is the tradition of finding the fern bloom in the forest. The fern bloom is said to only happen one night a year on summer solstice. And it's deep in the forest somewhere in the dark. And you have to go and find the fern blooming on this one night of the year. The women will go into the forest first, or one group of people go into the forest first, and then a second group of people go in a little bit later and look for the fern bloom. TLDR, ferns don't bloom. So, just gonna... Isn't that cute? I love that. Also, on this night, pranking and things like that are really appropriate and super fun. So, summer solstice, we're talking about that. It's bonfires, it's rolling, burning wheels down the tallest hill you can find. It's rolling around naked in the grass and in the plants and all of that good stuff. Midsummer is another name for it, same types of practices. Albenhefen in particular, as I said, is the Druid practice. And this name in Druid means possibly the apple harvest and possibly the light of the shore. And the combination of the sun and the ocean and the horizon is a huge, huge deal to Druids. Very, very, very important. So this is a day of recognizing the union and the moments of all of these entities coming together in one place. Gathering Day, as I said before, this is really in reference to going out and collecting herbs on this day because it's a fantastic day to do it, or the days leading up and the days after the solstice are going to be the high point for solar energy, if that's something that you want and need in your magical plant parts. And Night of the Chalice. And we will see over the course of the rest of June and especially July, as we get into Cancer season, more and more holidays that look like the Night of the Chalice. This is a modern pagan name that we see, or modern pagan holiday, I should say, that we see on a lot of the modern Wheel of the Year calendars that sort of proliferate across the internet. And it's dedicated to Ceridwen and her cauldron. But it's really sort of recognizing the archetype or the metaphor of the womb, and that the universal ocean out of which everything came. And it's recognizing the cauldron, it's recognizing the chalice, aka the goddess, as the thing, the entity, the energy that holds that archetypal place of gestation and creation and birth. You know, super casual stuff. It's no big deal. All right. Because I've completely forgotten where I am at this point. We're just flying by the seat of our not pants, because I'm not a sucker in that way. Let's see what the next slide is. Okay, it's witches' work. All right, cool. Very briefly, let me say some other names for this holiday are Fil Shathain. This is the name Scottish witches give this day. It means Swithin's Eve, and Swithin is a name related to John. We will get back to that in just a second. We also have the name Day of Ceridwen and her cauldron. Side note, the Day of Ceridwen and her cauldron by some modern calendars is marked here at summer solstice, and for other modern calendars it is marked July 3rd, which is very close to the aphelion, which is the place where we are in our orbit that is the farthest point away from the sun. And as we have seen with our oval-shaped megalithic sites, maybe humans understood that. I don't know if they did. I'm just saying, it's interesting, isn't it? Also on this day, we have the Day of Ain Nakain. We have Green Man Day. We've been talking about the Green Man for a few months now. This is the Night of the Great Mother, and this is also Green Week for our Slavic folks, which is another name that we will find for Kupalanak. Okay, at this time of year, modern witches are doing what? We are working with ritual forms, prayers, spell casting, whatever it is, however it is that we practice our magic and practice our spirituality. But we're focusing on things that feature power, transformation, determination, healing, fertility, and embodiment. And I think a lot of these are pretty straightforward. Power, right? The sun is at the zenith of its path across the sky. Woo, you're so powerful. Okay. Transformation. Well, that's actually really straightforward. We are transforming from whoever and whatever it is that we have been in springtime, and we're now moving into summer. So that leads us very quickly into our determination and our embodiment work. During springtime, and that's Ostara season and Beltane season, we are experimenting, right? We're throwing seeds out into the garden and we're seeing what takes. We're going to find out, we're going to let it grow for a little while and then make a judgment about whether we want to engage with it or support it or foster it for the rest of the year or what. We are experimenting in our springtime seasons. We are trying things out. We've just woken up from winter. There's crust in our eyes. We don't know what's going on. And so we are playing at things. We are throwing seeds out into the garden to see what takes. At summer solstice, we now want to start to determine things. We are not asking the universe, we're telling the universe. Well, no, we're not. We're never telling the universe. The universe is like, you're tiny. But we're telling ourselves, right? Versus asking ourselves maybe during spring seasons. In the summer seasons, we are saying, this is what I want, and I'm going to go get it. This is what I want to see in the world. I'm going to build it. I could support anything. I'm going to support this. I had 10 different experiments going on. I'm picking my top 3. And those are the things that are going to get all of my attention, all my fire, all of my power, all my determination. Also at this time, there is some healing work done and there is some fertility work done. The healing work and the fertility work is something that seems to be going on with a lot of different cultures in the background of lots of different stuff. The healing stuff in particular, especially as we move into July season and there's all this oceanic and river and waterway goddess and deity energy that really comes forward. Healing is right there on the heels of it. The fertility gig is something that we will have one more holiday, more or less, to participate in, and then that's kind of it for fertility magic for the year. The fertility magic of the year really centers around Ostara, so spring equinox, Beltane, here, Litha, and our next holiday, our next Sabbath, which is Lunasad or Lunasa. These are considered to be the high points of the summer's path, or the sun's path. By the time we get to Mabon, or Mabon, out at fall equinox, the sun has diminished quite a bit. It's not coming up anywhere near as high in the sky. The days are nowhere near as long. And in fact, that's the cutoff point, right? Because after that equinox, the days are officially shorter than the nights. So it's literally looking at the sun and saying, you are at your fullest, you're at your most, you're at your best. Let's take energy from you. Let's interact with you for this fertility thing while the getting is good. So that's what's up with that fertility imagery or fertility work that we are doing in our magic. And of course, fertility, side note, let me remind you, if you're looking at that and being like, ew, no thank you. You can keep your fertility stuff all the way away from everything about this. Goodbye and thank you, bye. Fertility is not always just about making flesh babies. So don't forget that. Fertility is about being able to generate stuff in your world, to bring an idea to fruition. Fertility is about finding the right people to get the work done with you. Like, who do I need to mix with, and what kind of an environment do we need to be in to be able to create the chalice within which we're going to make a baby. And the baby is our next hit song, or a TV show, or a play, or whatever. A tasty dish that I'm going to serve to my roommates and maybe my neighbor that I like. You know, like what is it that you want to produce in the world? What is it that you want to bring about in this next season? That's what we're talking about with fertility. It does not have to be a flesh baby. If you're down for getting pregnant, this is a great night for trying. But pregnant, meaning whatever. All right, moving on to the Sabbath sign. This is not my best work, okay? I am currently hiring and paying not a lot or at all for a graphic designer. So, maybe if you want to trade readings for me, please help. Please help. Send help to my graphic design. What is important here is, one, this symbol does look similar to the symbol for Leo, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But for me, what this looks like is a big round belly. It looks like a bowl. It looks like a chalice. It also looks like a wave. But it looks like something that is rising, something that is coming into its fullness. All of that kind of stuff. These symbols that we talk about, these in particular, this symbol of the other 7 that we talk about as the modern pagan symbol for the holidays, I don't know who developed these. They definitely are something that came around in the last 50 to 100 years. They are absolutely a modern invention, as far as I can tell. I would love to know who actually invented them. I think that they're really cool. Mostly because you can read so much into them. And I think that is something that is really potent and special about a lot of magical symbolism, is when you can have your own narrative involved. I think that's really, really important. Okay. Let's move on to, how am I doing? Oh my God. Okay. I'm actually, I'm actually kind of sticking with my schedule. So freak out. Okay. Let's move on to global themes and talk a little bit about what other people are doing around the planet, as well as some of the secular festivals and holidays that happen at this year. In the global context, as we look around the globe and throughout time, we see cultures all over the Northern Hemisphere participating, and really in the Southern Hemisphere too, even though it's getting cold instead of getting hot, participating in rituals and festivals, celebrating partnership, life, abundance, vitality, light, and warmth during this quarter holiday. We have, as I said, somewhere between 200 and 250 different holidays around the planet, past and present, during Litha season. And oh boy, do they line up with each other. It's always bizarre and really cool at the same time to see how many people, past and present, are doing more or less the same thing for more or less the same reasons at the same time. And sometimes they're doing it for very different reasons, but using the same symbolism. It just blows my mind. I freaking love it. Some of the holidays that we are going to see at, on the actual solstice, and I'm thinking of a chunk of days that are basically like June 18th to June 22nd. The solstice can fall anywhere in there because it is not beheld to our fail of a calendar. We have things like the Feast of the Great Spirit from the Plains Native Americans. The Sundance Ceremonies are taking place. They actually started in May, and I believe they run all the way through July for various groups of people. We talked a lot about the Sundance Ceremony in, I think it was episode 13 of the podcast. Yeah. And what else do we have happening on this day? Ishtar's Day happens now, Astarte's Day. And then we have a lot, as I said, a lot of like the Feast of All Couples, the Divine Feast, or the Feast of the Divine Couple. We have all of these different marriages that happen. But then other holidays that are taking place, past and present, within the Litha season. Not necessarily on the solstice, but within the next 5 or 6 weeks after that. We see things like Father's Day, interesting placement for that. We have the Feast of the Expectant Mothers from our Roman ancestors. We have Rusalka's Week from the Slavs, and this is a a week of bonfires and divination and different types of fortune telling that is all in reverence and celebration to water beings and waterways of various types, rivers in particular, and beings that live within rivers. We have the Okudu Women's Rites of Passage Festival from the Yoruba land people, the Jaya Parvati Puja from our Hindu friends. And so let me take a second, because I just read through. Here are some of the big holidays of the Litha season from past and present, not necessarily pagan, that I think are pretty cool. Actually, one of them is, but okay. June, we have Vestalia, and Vestalia will be coming up, I think, next week or week after. This is a Roman festival dedicated to Vesta, the goddess of the hearth. This took place all month long, with ceremonies similar to winter solstice, where fires were put out and relit and the hearth is cleaned and restocked. One of the easiest ways to recognize Vestalia in your own home is give your stove a good scrubbing. So really like love up on your stove, your oven, your cookware, wherever it is that you cook your food. Like give that a real good zhuzh if it's the fire pit, whatever it is. If you are cooking on a stove that has multiple burners, use a different burner from the one you normally use. Like recognize a different part of the appliance. It's so simple and it's kind of goofy, but at the same time, it's really effective. Vesta is the hearth and the heart. Those words are absolutely connected to each other. And Vesta represents the heart, hearth, home of the home, the warm heart of the hearth and the home, but it also represents the heart of the populaces that worship her. So she is very much like this fire that in theory never goes out. That's sort of the flame, the sacred flame of that stuff, of the community she's in or the house that she's lit in. Also during this time period, we have Schierraforia. This is a 3-day festival from ancient Greece overseeing the blessing and the fertility of the grains coming into harvest soon, involving Athena and her priestesses. And we've already had some Athenian holidays. We will have more. Big deal at this time of year. If you were not aware, the closer that folks are to the equator, the sooner their crops come to fruition. And so this is harvest for a lot of folks. And we see that Litha is sort of the preamble to the really big harvest season that happens all across the Northern Hemisphere at this time of year. But the closer you are to the equator, also, the hotter it gets. So you are not trying to grow plants in the middle of July. You are praying for rain at that point, or perhaps you are being deluged with the monsoon season. That's also something that we see at this time of year. The monsoon season is opening up for lots of people across the planet. Again, that ocean, water, wetness, deity, goddess stuff there. And so some groups are already pulling in their harvests and they're getting ready for the dry portion of the season where they are going to be praying for rain and asking for the inundation from the rivers. And other groups are, where it's colder, have been tending their seeds, their greens have been growing, and now their crops are really starting to take shape. And so they are engaging in practices that bless and protect and fortify those crops that are growing now that are to be harvested in the future. A lot of modern pagans work with that symbolism and that cycle, not thinking about the harvest having already come in, but that the plants are in the ground doing their thing right now, and we're going to harvest in a few months. Okay. Also at this time of year, we have the Feast of St. John the Baptist. Why I mention this holiday every single year at summer solstice is because the church, the Catholic Church, recognized the relationship of the Holly King and the Oak King when they placed the holy day of St. John the Baptist on June 24th, aligning it with the summer solstice, directly opposite December 24th. Who was that guy? He's got like the hair and he does the like thing. Was it? Oh, Jesus. Yeah. These two cats were brothers. John the Baptist, all about water, meh. Kind of cool. But yeah, these two cats, in my opinion, are absolutely similes of the Holly King and the Oak King. Two deities that pagans and witches and heathens all over the planet are working with at this time, potentially, working with at this time of year, as the as the Oak King gives up his reign of the dark half of the year from winter solstice to summer solstice and gives it over to the Holly King, who rules the bright half of the year. It's funny because the Oak King is thought of as the bright king and the Holly King is thought of as the dark king, but they rule the opposite sides of there's a lot of that. That thing. But they absolutely are a synonym for this. So we love that the Catholic Church made sure to tuck St. John's Day right there. Like, boink, it's just right there. No one will ever notice. We totally noticed. Okay, also happening at this time of year, Ratha Yatra from our Hindu friends. This amazing festival in India features massive, wait for it, chariots. Hey, wait a minute. Weren't we talking about chariots just a little minute ago? I swear to... Massive chariots pulled through the streets. Yaganath is celebrated, a particularly symmetrical form of Vishnu, along with his brother and sister. Very cool symbolism. Go check out that holiday. Really, really cool, weird symbolism. And also at this time of year, we have the Aonach Taltean Games from Ireland, or the Gaelic peoples. This is very similar to the Panatheniana, the Games of Apollo, the Olympics. It's basically kind of all the same stuff. I don't want to say that they are exactly the same, but we see multitudes of weeks-long games and competitions begin now and run all the way through Lunisod season, deep into August. And even into September. So that's just like a little glimpse of the various things that are happening around the planet. This is like kind of a taste of the type of stuff that you will get in the calendar if you don't have that. We really do talk about a lot of different things. Okay, so on that note, let's move on. Because we've only got 50 minutes left, and you know me, you know there's so much more to talk about. Like the astrology. Okay. So, actually, we are going to turn out the lights. Turn out the lights. And, wait, no! Don't look at that. Don't look. Do not look. Don't look at any of this. This is all a lie. Damn it. I swear I put it in here, but I guess I didn't. Oh, no, I put it here. Look, this is a completely professional setup, and I know exactly what I'm doing. Let's move on. This is the two constellations that we are talking about so much at this time of year. We are talking about Gemini, who is on the right-hand side, and we are talking about Cancer, who is on the left-hand side. I put our little east and west markers here. When you are looking at the sky, imagine the north is to your back and the south is in front of you, or the north is above your head, and the west is to your right and the east is to your left, and you'll orient yourself correctly here. We'll talk about this more in the upcoming podcasts, but in June and July, we are looking for full moons that are going to be in the signs of Sagittarius. We actually already had that one. The next one will be in Capricorn. And then as we move forward, Capricorn and then Aquarius. We get full moon names like the Strawberry Moon or the Moon of Horses, the Green Corn Moon, the Lotus Moon, the Windy Moon, all in June. Very interesting. The Windy Moon, the Horse Moon, there's our Gemini connections, right? And then in July, we get full moon names like the Buck Moon or the Heavy Fruit Moon, the Crane Moon, the Moon in the Middle of Summer. I don't know where they came up with that one. The Moon of Claiming, which I think is a really cool name. This new moon that we are experiencing today is the last new moon of spring. The last full moon of spring is called the dyad moon, and the first full moon after summer solstice is always called the honeymoon. Cute, right? Oh my god, the honeymoon. All right, that's enough of that. Briefly, the constellations that we are dealing with here, as I said, we've got Gemini, and then we're into Cancer. Gemini is intended to be two beings, often described as two boys, but they can be very androgynous. It sometimes is a boy and a girl, but moreover, these twins, as they are depicted as the divine twins in cultures all over the planet, are genderless, and also they are multi-gendered, and they also switch genders. I don't see them as an extension of the heteronormative paradigm. I see them as their own iteration, their own expression of gender and being. I feel like the constellation of Gemini, that's what we call it now, is almost like a reminder to us of like the multitudes that are within all of us. Like you can be whatever you need to be, you can transform into whatever you need to transform into, and in fact, you should be engaging in some transformation practices because we've left winter behind and we're moving into summer. We're very different people. We wear different clothes. We eat different. We move different. All of it. It's all different. So I really feel like a lot of the energy or the symbolism that we get from this constellation is more about transformation and a reminder, again, of the multitudes that are within us, as well as a reminder of fraternity, a reminder of queerness, a reminder of, just the fact that people are doing it a bunch of different ways out there. And then in Cancer, this is a really interesting constellation. The red dots are how the constellation is depicted currently. All the other dots are ignored in modern constellation maps and diagrams. But that box that's in the center is very, very important. This constellation is not always called Cancer. It's also been called the crayfish or the lobster. It's also been called the scarab. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But it's also been called the stall or the manger. It's also been called the beehive, the the breastplate of the high priest, for those out there that practice Hermetic and Kabbalistic magic. And this star, Aeschylus, or the two stars that are right there in the center that are like on the side of the box that's in the center, are often called two asses, meaning two donkeys. So there's also a two thing here, right? But I thought, like, immediately what it made me think of is Queen Mab falling in love with a donkey-headed person in A Midsummer's Night Dream by Shakespeare. I was like, did he know? Did he know some shit? Was he trying to tell us something right there? Because I think he was. What's a big screwy wackadoo thing here is that we are actually still dealing with a lot of the stars from Taurus. Those are actually over our head currently. The side note, gigantic thank you to Amanda Moreno, who pointed out that I had totally screwed up my math on fixed stars and completely had them wrong. So they're fixed now. You're welcome. Just full transparency there. I'm not perfect. Double check me. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm just a human. And I'm, trying to spin together multiple wheels over the last 10 to 15,000 years worth of information, religion, myth, symbolism, using multiple calendars for multiple eras. I'm going to screw it up some of the time. So thanks to Amanda, we now know what our actual fixed stars are above our heads. Thanks, Amanda, helping the community wherever she goes. So we are physically, if we look up in the sky where the sun is, it's still passing through the last few stars of Taurus. And then the Tejat, which is those first two stars on the right hand side at the very bottom of Gemini. We will be encountering those stars shortly. All right, that's enough astronomy, astrology, I think. We had our eclipse last night. The next eclipse that we're going to have is during Samhain season, towards the end of November or the beginning of December, I think. And we will talk more about eclipses then, because it already happened, so there's nothing to really say. All right, moving on to... see, I've got notes. I'm professional. Moving on to... oh yeah, our sky guide. Here's that we're not gonna look at it. There's no time. You can download this in the this will be in the Patreon bag of holding for everybody that's subbed at $9 and higher. I may post this on Instagram for free. I don't know. I probably just screwed myself. You were like, I'm gonna sub. Oh wait, she'll do it for free. Okay, never mind. But the sky guide is our lunar phases, the sun's movements, the heliacal rising of fixed stars, just to kind of get you oriented in terms of what it is that we're going to be working with. Okay, so then let us go to the astrology of the season. And I didn't include information about the Gemini new moon in this. You can go back and watch the Beltane class for information on how to work with this Gemini new moon as we are going forward. But ultimately, this is a really great time. Let me say this first. The lunar nodes have been in Gemini and Sagittarius for some time now, and they are about, over the course of this year, they're going to move backwards to Taurus and Scorpio. So this is kind of the last time that we are going to have a new moon near a node for a while, for a few months. At least it's the last time that we are going to have a new moon near the node in Gemini. It will be another 19 years before the North Node is here. It'll be another 9.5 years before the South Node is here. So, an era, right? A little bit of time is going to pass. So normally a new moon, we want to engage, we want to start up, we want to birth, we want to initiate, we want to begin the thing. But this is our last new moon. This is our last new moon of the season, our last new moon of Gemini near the node in the North Node in Gemini. So I really feel like this is a great time to initiate the new parts of yourself that are ready for summer, but also the new parts of yourself that have been born out of the old things that you have left behind, and the new information that you have acquired over this last year to year and a half of the exceptional time that we have had here on Earth. This is a great time to allow yourself to sort of change into whatever that new thing is. So we've got some changing energy in there, that transformation energy. We have that initiating energy of like, let me start to act on some of these things that have shifted. And I've been like, whoa, that shifted, but just witnessing it. Now let me like stand on it and move with it. Okay. When the sun is moving through Litha season, it has officially left Gemini. But Gemini imagery is so important to me in Litha season, I do like to talk about working with the astrology of it. Plus, all the fixed stars from Gemini will be over our heads through the majority of Litha season. So it's there no matter what. As the sun approaches its zenith in the sky, we are back in touch with our bodies. We want to go outside again. It's time to meet everybody. We finally have parts of the world have had our vaccinations. So for some of us, going and meeting with people is becoming safer. Please continue to do so with ethics in mind. Our focus moves from stimulating the body to stimulating the mind. And so on this new moon in Gemini, that is last night tonight, this is a time when we indulge in spontaneous conversations, trips, hookups, do some investigative rabbit hole business, and mostly without conversations, or mostly without any kind of an agenda, just knowing to know. And in particular, especially things that are like more entertaining maybe than they are informative. Maybe like this class. I don't know. Hopefully there's something real coming through. And then we're going to move into Cancer season. And as the sun moves through Cancer and we step into Litha, we want to make family with all of these new people that we have met and make a home and make a nest. And all these new people that we have met might be in here, right? Or here, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be other people out in the world. It might be new versions of ourselves. And in Cancer season, we want to make the home for them. We want to make headquarters right and good for whatever it is that we're about to get into during the rest of summer, which is going to be a lot of time. We examine our relationships, especially those where we got a lot of nurturing or we give a lot of nurturing. We connect more with people and ideas and genders that share a sameness with us. So however it is that you identify, this is a season where you may be more inclined to hang out with people who feel similar to you, whatever that means for you. Okay, so that is our astrology. Is there anything else I want to say about that? Yeah, okay, I've got it here. I've got it right in front of me. Maybe I'll just do that. During the Cancer lunar cycle, we get back to our roots. We touch base with our family origins. The new moon in Cancer, in what ways are you similar to your same-sex parent? And in what ways are you different? And that's that could be a really super loaded question. Do you have a parent who is the same gender as you? What is that conversation? What is all that stuff for you? This is a season to dive into that sea of experience. And what are we talking about? About a month out from now? Or I guess, 2 weeks from now, we will have the full moon in Capricorn, 2 to 3 weeks from now. And this is a great time to write a letter to a blood ancestor. And you can do whatever you want to with this letter. You can mail it to them. You could set it on fire and release the energy. You could cut it up and use it in a poem, which would be very Gemini. You could make art with it and do whatever you want to with it. But this is a great time to express to the ancestors and to kind of reach back. So we're looking at our immediate ancestry, people who are still alive, who literally helped bring us into the world, whether they did that physically or culturally, raised us, adoptive parents, all that stuff, it all counts. Built family, made family, chosen family, all the same. And then writing a letter to a blood ancestor. This is where I'm kind of insisting that you speak to somebody from your genetic past or from your physical body, flesh body heritage past. You can say whatever you want to say to them. Ask them questions even if you want to. Could be a really amazing ritual for that. Okay, let's move on to... I'm going to click this and it's going to be wrong. No, it's right. Woo! Come on, let's go. Yes. Tarot. Okay, this isn't actually even the slide, but I'm just glad that this is here. Okay, so the tarot that we are working with in Litha season. If you work with tarot a little bit, try hanging out with the Chariot and the High Priestess. These are 2 really potent cards. Wait, did I just say the Chariot? Did I just say the Chariot? Yes, I did. Because the Chariot card is connected to Cancer. Oh, did I not say that part earlier? Okay. So it's like magic and stuff, right? Okay. The Chariot connects to Cancer. The High Priestess connects to the Moon, which is the planetary ruler of the sign of Cancer. The High Priestess is often depicted in conjunction with the... Oh no! See, I had it all perfect before and then I screwed it up. There we go. With the Magician. Now, here we're coming back to some of our binary stuff, so be patient with me. The magician and the high priestess are often referred to in magical circles as the spiritual mother and father of the soul. There's a lot of baggage with that terminology, but what we really can say about that is that these are two entities that are coming from very different places, coming together to make a thing happen. And that whole of the soul thing is kind of interesting, right? Okay, we'll get into that in just a second. But in the middle here, we have the Lover's card and we have the Chariot. The Lover's card is ruled by Gemini. The Magician is connected to the planet Mercury. So that's why these two are here. The Chariot, Cancer, High Priestess, the Moon. The Lover's card represents an entity or an experience where we are brought together with people who we otherwise might not have mixed with to get a thing done. And I really can see that in a lot of our summertime adventures that we go on. It's like, we had a 3-month fling and we never saw that person again. Or, we went overseas and we had a trip and we never saw those people again. Or, I did this intern work up at the North Pole and then I never saw those people again. Like that kind of stuff sits very nicely in this season and with these experiences. But for me, I think a lot of the magic is really in the Chariot card. Okay, we've already talked about the Chariot multiple times in this class, and so now here we know that this is one of the core magical symbols that we are working with. In this card, we are seeing so much symbolism. We have this canopy of stars overhead. That's sort of the universe of stars. We have the 4 pillars holding up the canopy over their head. We have a black and white and white and black sphinx at their feet. So we have very much this sort of twin type energy. But, like same but opposite, but same but opposite. And we have wheels on our chariot. We have the yoni lingam at the front, which is the union of up and down, in, out, black, white, all of that stuff. We have the solar disk, the winged solar disk. So a big potent solar symbol right here. And so much more. There is so much symbolism on the Chariot card. We just don't have time. But we see, if we look carefully, a lot of the imagery echoed from one card to the next. We have the 2 beings under the angelic being, right? The 2 people that are standing on the ground in the Lover's card. We have the 2 sphinxes in the Chariot, and then we move to the High Priestess, and we see a black pillar and a white pillar. Again, the 2 kind of taking up their place at opposite ends. Do we see anything like that in the Magician card? We actually do. It's the roses and the lilies, the red roses and the white lilies at the bottom of the card. This is, again, that same symbolism. We are also seeing some other really interesting things. How about that equal-armed cross on the chest of the High Priestess? Hello. What? That's kind of intense. I'm going to read a little thing to you, and then we'll move on into looking at we'll look at some other tarot. As we move from Gemini into Cancer, we work with 4 different cards describing the various parts of the conversation between the superconsciousness, the subconscious, and the self-consciousness. We start by witnessing the influence of intuition and inner will on our perceptions, but we can fall into the trap of assuming that is, the ancestors coming for us. However, as we open ourselves up to the process of bringing our own voice down and listening to what is left, which is partially a reflection of the universe and shared experience, we can be overwhelmed with our own apparent insignificance and the general suffering in the world as we try to rationalize the chaos of existence. When we learn to be a temple to spirit and allow these forces to flow through us, we come closer to our reason for living. Only when we quiet the mind and open our hearts, witnessing the bounty of life and the mysteries of the universe, can we come into the place where the universe is presenting exactly what we need to us. Because we are in tune with exactly what the universe needs. But we will only learn these valuable lessons by descending down into the physical plane and living a life with all of the highs and all of the lows of that experience. So much to say about all of these cards. For patrons, we had a really fantastic class last year on the Lovers card that you can download and listen to, and we also had a really great class on the High Priestess that you can download and listen to if you like. The other thing that I want to say about tarot here is, so these are the other thing I would say about these 4 cards is, if you have this slide, either take a screenshot or sub to my Patreon, and you can actually get the full size slide. Do your color magic with this. Look at the journey that a color like yellow takes from the left to the right. Look at a color like blue. Look at a color like green or purple or black or white. And that alone could be a really incredible way of just studying what it is that these cards have to tell us. Look at the color red as you move from card to card. Don't you also love that Mercury is yellow, Gemini is red, and Cancer's orange? Hello! Like, so good. Oh, magic. What a sassy bitch. All right. Also here for you, another way of working with tarot. If, side note, I guess I should say, I never mention that, or I always forget to mention this. This deck that we are looking at here, this is the Builders of the Adytum deck. This deck comes in black and white. Only the major arcana are illustrated. The minor arcana are just pips cards. They do not have full illustrations. But the deck comes in black and white on very heavy cardstock, and you are intended to color your own deck to really develop a beautiful and very intimate relationship with the cards. Here we see the Pamela Coleman Smith deck. This is the tarot that I think most people are the most familiar with. And if tarot is something that you just kind of dabble with, just work with the moon and, the High Priestess and the Chariot. We don't have to go any further than that. If you want to go spicy, you can bring in the Lover's card and the Magician. If you want to get real spicy, you can bring in these 3 minor arcana cards, the 2, 3, and 4 of cups. These match to, in some systems, Venus or Mercury or the moon being in Cancer, which they will be. Mercury's in Gemini now, but will be in Cancer soon. Venus is currently in Cancer, and the moon will be in Cancer tomorrow. Later tonight, actually. It's just after midnight Pacific Standard Time is when the moon moves into Cancer. So you can live it live. Oh my God. Okay. When we're dealing with the World of the Cups cards in tarot, we are dealing with emotions, we are dealing with our intuition, we are dealing with sometimes things that are hard to put into words, but instead need to be felt to be experienced. And so these cards represent our kind of stepping into feeling the world, right? In Aries season, we are insisting to the world, I am. In Taurus season, we're saying, I need this for my physical security. I need some food. I need a house. I need a place to sleep. In Gemini season, we're saying, this is what I'm thinking about. I'm saying this. I want to talk about this. I want to think about this. And then when we move into Cancer season, we're asking ourselves, what do I need? And we're saying to the world, I need this. And I feel this. And I want to interact with people in these ways. I want to emotionally involve myself with things. So we go, the will or the ego, and then we go to the body, and then we go to the mind, and now we are here with the heart and the spirit and the intuition. And these are our first 4 signs as we move through the year, starting with spring equinox. So now we are stepping into the very beginning of Cancer, and we're stepping into the very beginning of the Suit of Cups. And so it's this initiation into being heart present with people. It's great to talk about stuff, but can you back it up with intent? Can you back it up with actually being spiritually present, emotionally present? That's a whole different thing. I can say yes a million times, but am I invested? That's a different thing, right? So these cards can help us have those types of conversations with ourselves. What do I want to invest in? We've talked about that part of Litha magic already, right? We're leaving behind experimentation and we're stepping into determination and commitment and embodiment. And so here, these 3 cups cards are like, okay, so what does that actually look like? What does it look like when I become determinative about these relationships that have been developing? And again, these might be people outside of you, but these might be people within you. These might be new forms or old forms of yourself that after this last year and a half are like, I got to come up for air. I have got to be known. I've got to express myself in this way. I need to embody myself in this way. All of that. So these are our tarot helpers for this season. And in general, I love working with all of these cards. I'd say the 4 of Cups is maybe the one that people look forward to the least. But it's really just a nice moment to kind of check in with yourself and say, like, okay, I'm having fun, but is this everything I want? Is this everything I need? Am I getting everything out of this? Should I be asking for more? Or is the universe giving me what it can give me and I'm being a pouty biatch about accepting my tiny miracles? Because sometimes the universe is like, all I can do is a tiny miracle. That's all I've got. I'm sorry. I got you that, but that's all I got you. So it's an opportunity for us to kind of take a minute and say, do I really want to be invested in this? Is this really where I'm at? By the time we get to the 4 of Cups, we're very deep into Cancer season, and we are really coming toward the end of Litha season, and we are just about into Lughnasadh or Lunasa season, or Lammas. So this is a great moment to kind of pause and ask ourselves, am I settling or am I being too finicky? Where am I at here in my magical process? Okay. Let me move on to... See, I am kind of keeping up with my schedule. Oh my God, it's like working. You guys. Okay. I am literally alone in a room freaking out. So I'm glad you guys are here with me, because I would just be yelling at my computer completely alone otherwise. Okay. Let me bring all of this to a head of sorts. Let me show you this. These are the Dioscuri, also known as Gemini, or the twins, or the divine twins. Castor and Pollux, the 2 beings in the constellation of Gemini, were twins born of 2 different fathers but 1 mother. When Castor was killed, Pollux traded his immortality to spend half of his life on Earth and half in the underworld, in both accounts with his best friend. The 2 boys were horsemen, and they rode horses that were born from sea foam. Called Dioscuri, they were star-crowned and were revered by sailors who believed the gods to manifest in St. Elmo's fire, the electrical charge that you see on ships' riggings as they passed through storms sailing over the ocean. In some accounts, the 2 boys are Apollo and Hercules. In others, it is Horus the Younger riding on the back of Horus the Elder. In others, it is the Hindu Yama and Yami twins cosmic twins and cosmic lovers, the primordial progenitors of the species. Now, side note this is another depiction of the Dioscuri, or Gemini twins, hanging out with Nemesis. Common, this is on brand. Note that symbol that's between the two brothers, or the two Gemini twins. Hello? Excuse me? I'm pretty sure that this is from like 300 BC or something like that. So we literally have the two of them with their hands under and over each other with that symbol directly over that exchange between them. It's incredible to me. But also why I grabbed this picture is because of their hats. Note their wide-brimmed hats. This is something, if you dig in and really do like go down the rabbit hole on the Dioscuri, the wide-brimmed hat thing is a very common description, a descriptor element of them. It was like it became one of their myth elements, or their archetypal elements, was these wide-brimmed hats. The Roman word for siblings who share a mother but different fathers was di Germani, and translated to true siblings. Yem, as in Y-E-M, Yem, like Yemeni, Yemeni. What? Yem means to pair or to press. A common ancient symbol for Gemini was a pile of bricks. Masonry's leading archetype is Hermes, the cognate of Mercury, and a herm is a cairn or pile of stones. Some twins are known as the founders of cities. Okay, now let us move on to Cancer, where I don't have any graphics. Sorry. But the constellation of Cancer is also known as the Gate of Man. Wait, is that a lie? Did I get one? Oh yeah, let me show you this. This is the divine twins from Mayan culture. Note that solar wheel right there in the middle. Note the equal armed crosses running on either side. Look at how they are depicted, same but different, but same but different. Equal but opposite. This picture blew my mind when I found this. I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about, guys. That's exactly it. The constellation of Cancer is also known as the Gate of Man, or the Gate of Humans. It is thought to be the place in the sky where souls come down to inhabit Earth. It has also been seen as the breastplate of the high priest, the manger, and the beehive, as it is filled with over 1,000 dim stars. And if you find a crab on the beach, if it's a female and you flip open, it's got this like extra shelf belly shield thing that's just like a big plate across its belly. If you pull that open and it's a mom, it's probably filled with 1,000 different baby crabs. Spiders of the sea, woo! But it's literally this. It's this square spot on the underside of a crab filled with a bajillion tiny baby crabs. So, on Earth, in the sky, same. Before the constellation was a crab, however, it was a scarab. And scarabs were worshipped by Egyptians for thousands of years. They believed that scarabs guided the sun across the sky like a chariot, just as they rolled little balls of dung across the desert. We now know that scarabs are capable of navigating across the desert by following the light of the Milky Way and other stars. That is absolutely true. It is real science. Go look it up. It's freaking cool. I don't know what oh yeah, vector stock. There we go. I don't know what I'm promoting there. It's like, what am I saying that I'm doing? That's a lie. Scarabs get their name from the Egyptian god Kaphra, whose name means one who creates himself as the sun creates itself anew at summer solstice. Now, interestingly, in Egyptian, karabos, the word karabos means small boat. And we have, do I have that here? Here we go. At summer solstice, this is the pyramids Kaphra and Khufu. At summer solstice, the sun rises in between the two of them. It lines up perfectly. Interesting. So we literally have here one who creates himself as the sun creates itself anew at summer solstice. It also sits really amazingly with that brick imagery and pressing and to pair and all of that. It's just, there's just so much. There's just so much. Bam, 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 bam. All right, there's the twins. Back to me. Hi. And our last little bits of stuff. So, what are we doing as modern pagans? What are we doing with all of this information, with all of this symbolism, with all of this incredible myth that we have in front of us? What are we doing? Running between two bonfires, obviously, right? Anytime we can get fire and nudity involved, pagans are completely down. But two, right? Ha ha ha, there's the pair. Walking a labyrinth. Absolutely, walking into the center, stopping, and then starting back out again in the new direction. Gathering herbs, we've talked about that. Staying up all night, not just for insomniacs, actually also a legitimate pagan practice. So next time you have insomnia, it's a ritual. It's a ritual. It's fine. Playing in the garden, playing. Fire divination. Renewing vows because of all of these incredible divine marriages that are happening at this time of year with the gods and goddesses. Hand fasting, very popular at summer solstice. Obviously, June is known across the Northern Hemisphere as the month that you must get married if you are in the heterosexual paradigm. It is demanded. But also holding rituals at noon, where we are seeing the sun at the apex of its path across the sky versus holding your ritual in the morning or at night. I know most of the pagans that I know, and me too, we usually do our rituals at nighttime because night's cool, man. You get to hang out with the moon. But this is a time where we're hanging out with the sun. So doing your ritual during the day instead makes a lot more sense. We're working with symbols like the sun, fire, bonfires, pairs of things, cauldrons filled with water, sundials and henges, and a burning wheel. I hope all of this is very obvious and like, it makes sense by now, right? Like, why are we working with this? I just talked about it for 2 hours. But again, pairs of things, the sun, fire, bonfires, all very important. And when we're talking about symbols, this might be things that you put on your altar. These might be things you do. Maybe you're making artwork around this. Maybe you wear these things as jewelry or on a t-shirt, anything along those lines. Incorporate your magical practices and your myths and symbols however you can. The more subversive, the better, I think. Animal helpers at this time of year, dragon, phoenix, white horse, obviously, right? Salamanders, that's one of our fire creatures. Whales and crabs and lobsters and scarabs, water beetles, snapping turtles, these all are very water-centric beings. But so is the dragon. And the dragon image is something that we see around the world. Like, we just don't have the time to get into it in this class, but we see the dragon image around the world. All through May, through June, through July, we see dragons connected to fire and water, sometimes at the same time. And a lot of the more ancient water and oceanic goddesses were sometimes depicted as dragons or dragon-type serpents or what have you. Food and drink. Just briefly, really, my biggest advice to you is always eat or enjoy whatever is in season. That's always going to be the most magically potent food that you can. But there's also, like Posca, which is this really incredible Greek beverage that's super refreshing. There's also Kikion, is another ancient Greek beverage that is very traditional to eat and drink, or to drink and enjoy during summertime. It's very refreshing. Barley oriented, so we're getting our grain symbolism in there. Incense and oils. Kefi is an incense blend that has a lot of conjecture around it. Some folks believe that the original or most authentic recipes are lost to time. And then other times you'll find things that look like a pretty authentic recipe, and it's like, how on earth are we going to make this? The smell is incredible. Even incense companies that make kind of an approximate kefi, it's fantastic. It's really, really incredible. But stuff like coconut and lotus, vanilla, that's all of our Cancer water type energy stuff. Chamomile and rose and sunflower and honeysuckle are very like gentle ways of working with the solar energy. So they're solar oriented plants, but they're pretty chill about what they do. Mineral helpers, obviously. Why am I saying obviously? Obviously, these are mineral helpers. Amber connected to the sun, carnelian as well. But carnelian's also connected to Cancer. And if you think of a red crab, it's almost always that same color that carnelian comes in. But in particular, moonstone, selenite, mother of pearl, shells, and beach glass for really bringing in that Cancer ocean energy. Plant helpers, really anything that is blooming, anything that is in season. Side note, if you are harvesting plants for magical work, I'm not going to tell you how to live, but you're watching my class, so I'm totally going to tell you how to live. Just be ethical about what you do. Think about who came there before you, how did they care for the plants, is this being grown by someone and they're going to be bummed if you took it? Are you, did you struggle forever to finally find one patch of this plant and now you're going to harvest the whole thing? No, right? Like if you struggle forever to find a plant and you finally find some, that means it's having a really hard time growing there. Maybe we're not going to harvest any of that this year. Or maybe I'm going to take one tiny little leaf and leave the rest, right? Versus if I see something and it's like inundating an area, whoa, maybe I should harvest a whole boatload of this, right? There's a ton of it, so no harm. And also, is it an invasive species? Maybe I'm actually helping with my harvesting. So we don't want to just move out into the world and be like, I'm a witch, I get to take this herb, it's the night. We want to be ethical for our own practices, but also for the community and for the people that come after us, right? Right? Okay. What else? Oh yeah, the meditations. Okay. So in Litha season, we are really coming into a time where we are embodying our power, we are embracing our power, we are embracing our authority, we are leaving behind experimentation, and we are leaning into being determined about what it is that we do. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to engage in experimentation throughout the rest of the year. We probably will from time to time. It will probably be required, or maybe we just want to. But with the biorhythms and our myths and our astrology and all of these systems that we kind of sit within, there's a real energetic emphasis to leave behind experimentation and begin to claim stuff, to begin to become very determined, like, nope, this is what I'm doing. Like I said, I had 10 experiments going on. I'm going to commit to these 3. These are the 3 that are going to get my attention. They're going to get all my power. They're going to get my radiant light, right? What are you going to shine your solar energy onto? So our meditations here. Think of all of the energy that you radiate. How do you share your gifts? Let me stop you right there with the negative talk. Yes, you do. You radiate, you shine, and you shine in a way that no one else ever has, does, or ever will. So if only within that uniqueness, what are the gifts that you share? And how do you share them? We all have the capacity to nurture. What does nurturing look like for you? And again, this is something that nurturing, the idea of nurturing and to be nurturing or to be nurtured, has so much baggage attached to it. I don't want to be seen as weak. I don't want to be seen as clingy. I don't want to be seen as needing people. That's something that those people do. People that identify like me, we don't engage in that activity. That's for those people to do. All of us have the capacity to nurture. And I would say that we maybe all have the responsibility, like all of us, literally, have the responsibility to first and foremost nurture ourselves and not expect that necessarily from other people. but also to be able to nurture the people around us if they need it, right? And to be able to recognize the ways that we are being asked for that, and to recognize the ways that we ask for it. It's not bad to be nurtured by people. I don't want to say that. Like, we should be doing this for ourselves because we should be doing it for ourselves and not relying on or waiting for someone to do it for us. And at that same turn, as I have said a lot in the last few weeks in the podcasts, we fucking need each other. We absolutely need each other. So, again, how do you nurture? And how do you allow yourself to be nurtured? What does that whole process look like for you? What does that word bring up for you? This is the time of year to dive in and find out what that's all about. And I encourage you to explore the wild expanse of reality and of your own spirit. What will help you progress on your path this year? And in that work, I encourage you to make some practical lists of things that would be really helpful for you. But I encourage you to make some fantastical lists too. Like, if I'm asking for help, let me ask, right? Let me ask for the giant things. I would love a spaceship. I would love $1 bajillion, whatever it is. I would love for money to just disappear and not be a concept anymore. I would really love that. That would be a huge help. I'd be really into it. But this is the time of year to be asking ourselves that. Like, as I step into claiming what it is that I'm going to try to embody and produce in this year, what would be really, really helpful for me in that process? What would be super awesome for me in that process? That brings us to this. And so let me go to this. And let me go to that, which should have been a whole bunch of ocean gods and goddesses names. Sorry, it's not there. But it will be or is in the Patreon folder. So teaser. Let me say thank you to my patrons. Oh my God, you guys. Okay, so officially there's now so many names on here that I'm going to have to figure out a different way to do this because that's kind of crazy. A year ago this time, I had like 20 patrons, maybe less. Now I have over 50. It's pretty incredible. I'm really excited. I definitely started out doing this work for myself, let me be very honest. And I have grown into doing this work for you, for us, for whoever comes after us. Yeah, I don't know. Today I don't have a lot of words for this. I'm just really thankful and really grateful that you guys want to take this ride with me, that you are intrigued and excited about this information like I am. It's been cool. It's been a real shift and it's been really cool. If you don't, come on and work with me. You should, huh? I do tarot readings. I do astrology readings. I mentor pagan spirituality stuff. I also do magical consultations. Maybe you have received a piece of jewelry and you don't know what it's about. I could do some research for you. Maybe you want to get a really dope tattoo and you want it to be as accurate as possible. Let's have a conversation. And I also mentor people in learning tarot. My mentorship stuff has been closed this year, and I will be opening it again at the end of summer, the beginning of fall. There will be more information about that coming soon, so you can subscribe to my newsletter to get information about that. The links for all that stuff are in the info piece just below where the video is playing. You can work with me through Patreon, these live classes, which there's a whole year's worth here on my YouTube channel, my weekly Spinning the Wheel podcast, wherein I lose my mind every 7 fucking days. I also have a newsletter. I have a website filled with lots and lots of writing. And then, of course, social media hell. Because social media is totally satanic. And well, no, it's not. It's not satanic. Satanism is great. Those kids have their shit dialed in. It's worse than that. Significantly so. All right, my friends, can you believe it? We literally ended on time. I'm unsettled personally. I know that I forgot something. That's exactly what this is. I'm like looking back through, I'm like, what did I forget? Thanks so much for joining me. I hope this has been fantastic. Happy Litha season. Happy summer solstice. Come into your fullness. Come into your full, erect, throbbing self. Get to your zenith, and then look down on the world and bake them, make them pay. No, I'm kidding. Save that for later. That's Lunar side. For now, this is the gentle, nice sun that we're all excited to hang out with. Again, thanks for joining me in this wild ass live stream. I hope this has been fantastic for you. I'm gonna glance at the chat now. Finally, hey Darlene, yay! Hey Patty, hey Sarah, hello Elizabeth. Hello, Sunny from India. Oh my God, I don't know if you're still here, but wow, hi. And hello, Rachel. Yay. I hope this has been fantastic for you. Whenever it is that you watch this, I hope you do it while you're sitting in the sun, or, maybe tomorrow hanging out in the sun. If there's a nude beach near you, it's probably time to go, enjoy some of that old time religion. All right, my friends. Mwah. Blessed be. Thank you so much for joining me, and happy solstice. Da 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 da. Do 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 do.